P is for participation, a guide to engaged family relationships based on the principles of prevention science and positive psychology. This guide is based on the idea that positive emotions lead to positive actions, and positive actions lead to optimal functioning as a family. My name is Jason Zimmerman. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Pennsylvania, and I thank you for joining me as I present to you, the clinicians, educators, and professionals who work with families, this guide, which can be quite useful in the valuable work that you do on a daily basis. Now, what does this have to do with prevention science, you might ask? Well, it's a good question. We know that prevention, which is an important part of our role and function as professionals, is defined by the dictionary as prevention. Noun, the act of stopping something from happening or arising. Well, I actually prefer this definition. Prevention is the active process of creating conditions and personal attributes that promote the well-being of people. This definition is a bit more closely aligned with our professional orientation. And when we extend this definition to the family unit, there are a number of things we're trying to prevent. Some of these things include adverse childhood experiences, delinquent behavior, alcohol and substance use, poor academic outcomes, divorce, health problems, and reduced life expectancy. Now, many of us are familiar with this pyramid diagram, which really drives home the point that risk is cumulative. So when we address these risk factors early in a child's life, we can hopefully reduce the likelihood of these negative health outcomes later in life. Many of us are also quite familiar with Urie Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory. And according to this diagram, the child is at the center, and directly surrounding that child is their microsystem, which consists of the family unit. While the family unit has the most direct influence on the child, it also transmits information about the outside world, which includes the surrounding neighborhood, the community as a whole, and the social and cultural values that we seek to instill in our children. So when we can focus on strengthening the family as the vehicle for positive development, we can effectively prevent many of these negative outcomes down the road. So as we focus on the family as having the greatest power to influence positive development, and we do this early in the life of the child, we can formulate an intervention that has the capacity to help children to overcome adversity and reach their full potential. Creating and sustaining safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments for all children and families can prevent ACEs and help all children reach their full potential. This is a statement made by the CDC in their Preventing Adverse Childhood Experiences discussion page online. And here's the link. So, this is the thinking that serves as the foundation for this guide. P is for participation. Now, the way I structured this guide was to use some of the principles of positive psychology in the form of an acrostic, which is simply an acronym using the first letters of words that reflect concepts that are found within positive psychology. So let's take a look. What do we have here? As I read off each of these words, just give some brief thought to what these words mean to you. In your work with families and in your personal lives, we're professional, but we're people too, just people who work with people. So think of these words: participation, relationships, expression, values, empowerment, negotiation, thankfulness, interoception, optimism, and nourishment. Each of these concepts is defined in understandable terms for the entire family. So if you're curious about any of these words and what they mean in the context of family prevention, take a look at the guide. I'm going to give you a link at the end of this presentation that you can visit and download a copy of this guide at no cost, along with a discussion guide that you can use with your families as you introduce and familiarize them with the P is for Participation guide. After running the text of this guide through an online text readability consensus calculator, we're at about an 8th grade reading level. So while some of these concepts might be a challenge for younger readers, they're easily explainable by parents, easily discussed during clinical or family education visits, and most importantly, these concepts are learned by doing. Now, given that these concepts are mostly borrowed from positive psychology, there's some purposeful overlap with the PERMA model. The PERMA model is developed by Martin Seligman out of the University of Pennsylvania and published in his 2012 book, Flourish. In this book, Dr. Seligman outlines the characteristics of flourishing, and he talks about positive psychology as a way to make life worth living. So this book is a game changer, and I highly recommend it for families, professionals, and students of the social sciences. And the beautiful thing about positive psychology is that it takes a non-pathological approach to human development, whereas the traditional psychological focus on diagnostic labels and fragility in the sense that patients who approach us are somehow unwell, positive psychology views individuals and families as possessing strengths and inner qualities that can be harnessed in a way that leads to thriving. And I find it to be a compassionate and encouraging way to relate, not only with my clients, but in all of my relationships in life. Okay, so what this doesn't do is ignore the realities of the risks and the challenges and the very real adversity that many families face and come to us with. But in the short time that we have in our face-to-face visit, we want to be able to instill hope and a sense of agency by identifying and developing the innate skills people walk through the door with. So back to the PERMA model, another acrostic. We have P for positive emotions, which is covered in the guide by the concept of optimism. We have E for engagement, which has similarities to the flow state we describe in participation. More on that in a moment. We have R for relationships, which speaks to our innate desire and need to be connected with our important others. We cover that as well. We have M for meaning, which we address with the concept of values. And basically, these are the things that make us tick. And we have A for accomplishments, which has some conceptual relationship to empowerment. Another concept we discuss, and this is all about experiencing success, mastery, and a sense of effectiveness or confidence in all that we do. So, just as an example, let's look at the first term just as it appears in the guide. A little example here for you. P is for participation. Okay? Have you ever felt completely involved in something you were doing, making full use of your skills and experiencing enjoyment? This is what it means to build mastery and to find your flow. Think about the activities where you find your flow. When you make regular time to practice these activities, you will continue to get better at them and feel better about yourself. How can you and your family contribute to these shared activities? How does it make you feel to be an active participant in these shared activities? And here are the activities. Number 1, choose a favorite board game or physical activity that involves the whole family and play it together. 2, choose a favorite meal that you can prepare together. Assign each family member a task to complete so everyone can participate together. So we have a pretty clear explanation of the term, a thought-provoking set of questions, and a set of easy-to-practice activities that drives the point home, both for children and parents. And then for each of these terms, we have some synonyms here at the bottom. Engagement, involvement, contribution, cooperation. So really, this guide is kind of a nice vocabulary lesson. Okay, so if you are interested in seeing what is contained in this guide, please feel free to go online following this presentation and go to the link that I'm going to show you. As I had mentioned, this guide is free to download, and it can be printed on 8.5 by 11 paper and folded into a booklet which you can make available to your families. Printed versions are also available upon request, which I can provide in exchange for the cost of paper and postage. Just send me an email. Once again, here's the link. And I want to thank you for your time and your attention and your devotion to what you do. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. Again, the website is middlewaypc.wixsite.com/participation. Thanks again.